The intrusion. It started like any other Tuesday. I was at work, sipping coffee at my desk when my phone buzzed with a string of text messages. The sender? A number I didn't recognize. "This is Sharon, Karen's cousin. I need your house code right now." At first, I thought it was some sort of prank. Who introduces themselves like that? I ignored it, thinking the person would realize they had the wrong number. But the texts kept coming. "Karen said you live in the community and have a spare room. I'm checking in tonight. Just send me the code to your door." My jaw tightened. Not only was this completely bizarre, but the audacity to demand my access code to my own house was infuriating. I didn't even know Karen's cousin, let alone offer her lodging. I typed back firmly, "You have the wrong idea. I don't give out my house code to anyone. Please stop contacting me." But Sharon wasn't the type to take no for an answer. Within minutes, she sent back a wall of texts. "Karen is the HOA president. She said I can stay with you. Don't be selfish. It's only for a week. If you don't send me the code, I'll have to call HOA security." I leaned back in my chair, stunned. Show security? That wasn't even a thing. By noon, my phone rang. It was Karen. Her sharp voice rang through the speaker. "Why are you giving Sharon such a hard time? She just needs a place until her flight. You're in the HOA. It's your duty to help." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My duty to house her random relatives? I calmly replied, "Karen, I don't host strangers in my home. End of discussion." She huffed. "Well, don't be surprised if Sharon takes action." Then she hung up. The rest of the day, a knot of irritation sat in my stomach. I had dealt with Karen's antics before. Her obsession with controlling neighbors. Her endless rules about lawn height. Even her ridiculous attempt to fine me for having a kayak in my driveway. But this was a new low. By the time I got home, the situation escalated. Sharon was standing outside my front gate with 2 suitcases, furiously pacing. She spotted me and yelled, "About time! Do you know how long I've been waiting? Give me the code so I can get in already." I tightened my grip on my briefcase. This was not going to end well. The hotel bill. Sharon's shrill voice echoed through the cul-de-sac as I walked up my driveway. Neighbors peeked through their curtains, no doubt curious about the scene. I stopped several feet from her, keeping my tone firm. "Sharon, you need to leave. I never invited you, and you're not staying here." Her eyes widened in disbelief, then narrowed with hostility. "Karen told me this community looks out for family. I flew across the country, and you're going to leave me homeless?" I held back a bitter laugh. "You're not homeless. You can book a hotel like any normal traveler." That's when her face hardened. She dragged her suitcase closer, planting herself stubbornly in front of my door. "I'm not moving until you give me the code." I dialed my phone, letting her see the screen. "I can either call the police or you can order an Uber. Your choice." For a second, she faltered, then scoffed. "Fine, but you're paying for my hotel. This is your fault." I ignored her and stepped inside, locking the door firmly behind me. Through the peephole, I saw her stomp off, muttering curses. I thought the ordeal was over, but the next morning proved me wrong. As I brewed my coffee, an email notification buzzed on my phone. Attached was a scanned receipt from a local hotel. The total? $389.47. The subject line read, "Your share of my lodging, pay within 24 hours. I almost spilled my coffee laughing. She had actually sent me a bill as if this were some kind of corporate reimbursement request. By mid-morning, Sharon escalated further. She showed up at my workplace reception desk. My assistant whispered nervously, "There's a woman here demanding to see you. She says you owe her money." I stepped into the lobby, jaw tightening. Sharon stood there holding the printed hotel bill like evidence in court. "Pay me now," she hissed, "or I'll have Karen file a complaint with the HOA board. We can fine you, you know." I crossed my arms. "You walked into a hotel on your own, paid for it on your own, and you think I'm responsible? That's not how the world works." Her cheeks flushed red with anger. "We'll see about that. I'll make sure everyone knows how selfish you are." She stormed out, leaving the hotel bill on my desk like some kind of ransom note. But instead of being intimidated, I was done playing nice. If Sharon wanted to weaponize Karen's HOA authority, then it was time to turn the tables. I began documenting every text, every voicemail, and every ridiculous stunt. Something told me this circus wasn't finished. Karen doubles down. By the end of the week, my phone felt like a war zone. Sharon kept spamming me with payment demands, while Karen left voicemails dripping with arrogance. One message stuck out. "If you don't pay Sharon's hotel bill, we'll add the amount as an HOA fine. You can't win against the board." That was the final straw. HOA rules never allowed fines for something unrelated to community maintenance. Karen was abusing her title again, and this time she dragged her cousin into it. I spent Saturday afternoon meeting with my neighbor, Mark, who happened to be a retired attorney. He chuckled when I explained the situation. She's bluffing. What she's trying to do is extortion, plain and simple. Save every message. You may need them soon. I took his advice, organizing screenshots into a neat folder. Meanwhile, Sharon wasn't slowing down. That night, I found her loitering near my mailbox, filming herself on her phone. She waved the camera at me. "Here's the neighbor who left me on the streets. Everyone online will know what a monster you are." I shook my head, unlocked my mailbox, and muttered, "Enjoy your views, Sharon." But what she didn't realize was that trespassing near mailboxes is a federal issue. My patience was thinning. The very next morning, a letter appeared taped to my door. "Final warning, pay $389.47. Immediately, or the HOA will take legal action." It was signed Karen, HOA President. No letterhead, no official format, just Karen's messy handwriting. I snapped a picture and added it to my file. By Monday, the drama reached a new peak. Sharon barged into the HOA office during a community meeting, dragging her suitcase dramatically behind her. I wasn't present, but multiple neighbors later told me how it unfolded. She slammed the hotel bill on the table, shouting, "This resident owes me money," and Karen promised the HOA would enforce it. Gasps filled the room. One neighbor, tired of Karen's antics, pulled out their phone and started recording. Karen, flustered but determined, barked, "Yes, Sharon is right. Our residents must support one another. Refusing her lodging is a violation of our community values." That was the mistake that sealed her fate. Someone immediately reported it to the county housing authority, who flagged the behavior as an abuse of HOA power. Later that night, 2 officers knocked on my door. My stomach tightened, but to my relief, they weren't here for me. They asked me for a copy of the evidence I'd collected. After reviewing my screenshots, recordings, and the ridiculous hotel bill, the officer smiled slightly. "Looks like we've got ourselves a case of fraud and harassment." Finally, Karen and Sharon's web of entitlement was starting to unravel. The arrest. The knock on Karen's door came 2 days later. I wasn't there in person, but half the neighborhood was, phones out. Recording as if it were the event of the year, Karen opened the door with her usual smugness, arms folded. Sharon hovered behind her, suitcase still in tow like some bizarre prop. The officers stood tall and calm. "Karen Thompson?" one of them asked. "Yes, and before you say anything, I'm the HOA president. I know my rights." The officer's voice stayed even. "We're here regarding a complaint of harassment, attempted fraud, and misuse of HOA authority. We'll need you and your cousin to come with us." Sharon stepped forward, indignant. "Excuse me? We're the victims! He abandoned me, made me pay for a hotel, and refused to reimburse me. Karen was just helping enforce fairness." The officer flipped through the paperwork I'd provided. "Funny, because these messages show you demanded access to a private residence you weren't invited to. And Karen, this so-called fine you issued, completely outside the HOA bylaws. That's abuse of position," neighbors murmured, some openly cheering. Karen's face flushed red. "This is ridiculous. I was protecting community values." "Ma'am," the officer interrupted, "community values don't include extortion. Please turn around." The moment the cuffs clicked around her wrists, gasps filled the air. Sharon squealed as another officer guided her toward the patrol car. She tried to wiggle free, shouting, "You'll all regret this. I'll sue every one of you." But the officers didn't even flinch. They slid both women into the back seat, doors slamming shut with finality. For the first time in months, the neighborhood felt lighter. People clapped, laughed, even shook my hand as I walked past. Mark, the retired attorney, grinned. "Told you to keep the evidence. Nothing beats facts in black and white." Later that evening, I sat on my porch, sipping tea as the sun dipped behind the houses. My phone buzzed again. But this time it wasn't another demand. It was a flood of thank you messages from neighbors. Turns out Karen's abuse of power had been a burden on more than just me. My case had given everyone else the courage to speak up. By the end of the week, the HOA board called an emergency meeting. Without Karen, a vote was held, and her presidency was revoked permanently. Sharon, meanwhile, faced charges for harassment and trespassing. As I watched the new HOA president, a reasonable, level-headed neighbor, take the oath, I couldn't help but smile. Karen and her cousin thought they could bully me into submission. Instead, they lost everything. And as for the infamous 389 and 47 bill, it's still framed on my wall, a reminder that sometimes The best payback is simply letting entitled people destroy themselves.